Welcome to Gist Nigeria, brought to you by the BBC and Channels TV. I am Wale Fakile. On to our top story for this week then. Some economic staff predicted that Nigeria's economy could be headed for a recession by the end of this year. They have cited a massive decline in crude oil prices caused by the coronavirus pandemic. About 65% of the working class in the country are in the informal sector, and the impact of the lockdown is biting hard. In this story, I was on the streets to measure the impact of the virus on the economy and what should be done now to avert a recession. The coronavirus pandemic is changing how we live. Life for some is at a standstill, while frontline workers face a new normal as the number of confirmed cases crosses the 3 million mark. But beyond the health concerns and human cost of COVID-19, the resulting uncertainties and disruptions have forced global trade to contract, with millions of dollars lost daily. For emerging markets like Nigeria, the odds of slipping into a downturn are gradually becoming a reality. Lockdowns have grounded economic activities at the nation's commercial hub, Lagos, neighboring Ogun State, and the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. Many other states have followed suit, imposing varying restrictions on movement. These restrictions have reduced the consumption of non-essential commodities, causing unease for business owners in Nigeria's formal sector.
There are some goods and services that you know that there will always be a demand. Food, healthcare, clothing, basic clothing, right? There will always be demand there because those are necessities for survival. However, how does it get delivered?
When it comes to our back-end services, when it comes to finance, technology department, we've had to get most of our staff to work from home, and the impact of that is that with staff working from home, you begin to see some of the issues associated with working from home in Nigeria. Things like unavailability of light, terrible network across different locations across the country. So these are things we've been able to pick up.
Nigeria has a large informal sector, which contributes about 65% of its economic output, according to the International Monetary Fund. The COVID-19 pandemic has not only battered the income-generating capacity of this group, it has also affected their quality of life.
I have not been able to make 1/5 of what I make as profit. It's just to find something to eat. I barely eat twice a day. Before, a meal per day was certain. Now even the only meal in a day is not satisfying.
I sell pap and clothes. I've sold everything and spent the money on feeding. They have instructed that there should be no hawking. They said coronavirus gets into the pap. That's why we stopped hawking. Since then, we have not got any money to feed. Children are crying at home.
Traders, grocery store owners, and commercial taxi drivers also form a critical part of Nigeria's informal sector.
Let me rather say we don't make profit again just because people do buy on credit. And these are people that on a good day, they do buy at cash, they do buy. Once they come, they pay instantly. These are the customers, when it's good, and they are still your customer when it's, on the other side. So you can't neglect them. So once they come like that, somebody buying foodstuff of 5,000 naira and it's dropping 1,500 naira.
The business is not moving like before. Other time there is no lockdown, the business is quite okay. But now you can see there is no more. If you have anything in the shop after selling, you cannot see them to buy back and replace back.
Also feeling the pangs of the restrictions are monthly salary earners whose employers may be unwilling to continue to pay salaries without earning income.
When money is not coming in, how do we expect them to pay us when they are not making any money, when they are not making any income, when nothing is coming in? So even though it was because of the way we pleaded on the management, that's why they paid us our March salary. So this April, I'm not sure, even though all our outlets all over the world have sold up to 30% of our monthly target.
People are cash strapped. That is the message across, right? People feel like they don't have enough revenue to even cover their fixed costs. a lot of these SME holders, right? I mean, SME owners are feeling like they don't have enough revenues saved up to be able to cover expenses indefinitely, because nobody knows when this lockdown will end. And it also affects trade in that you have to understand that some of those SMEs are not working in silos, right? Some of them in Nigeria order some of their raw materials or goods from Kenya, Zimbabwe, across Africa. So when they're not able to get their suppliers in, they also don't know what business would look like even after the country reopens up, when other countries are still on lockdown. How do they access their materials to be able to produce? So while the lockdown continues, and even after production, I mean, even after the lockdown opens up, it's still going to take some time for these businesses to recover.
The lockdown in many countries around the world is taking a huge toll on global oil prices, Nigeria's biggest source of revenue. Amid the sharp decline in oil price, the official exchange rate has been adjusted from 306 naira to 360 naira. But what else might change in Nigeria's business climate, and what would these changes mean for the economy?
The first answer to that would be diversification, right? Like in terms of for the economy as a whole, right? We can't keep focusing just on, and I think this current regime, the current president has been trying to do a lot of work around that, diversifying the economy. But from the entrepreneur point of view, COVID-19 actually presents a lot of opportunities for entrepreneurs, right? This is a time for entrepreneurs to think outside the box, to figure out how do we become a solution. When we look at education, for example, most of the kids right now are sitting at home and not really being homeschooled. When school starts, they have to stop from where they started, right? Their peers in other countries, for example, once school starts, they are not starting from where they stopped. They're continuing. Those that were supposed to graduate will still graduate. There is no delay, right? So we entrepreneurs have to think about how do you contribute to the future need of Africa.
As part of the government's efforts to cushion the effects of the pandemic, the Central Bank of Nigeria says it has arranged a credit facility of 50 billion naira for households and small businesses. The government also claims to have started paying the sum of 20,000 naira to vulnerable people. But the IMF and other rating agencies are predicting negative GDP outlook for Nigeria this year. So, how will Nigeria get out of the woods, and where do we go from there?
The first step has been taken in terms of deregulation of petroleum products. I'm confident that if the deregulation is pursued efficiently, you will find new investments in storage, in pipelines, in depots, in refining, and in petrochemicals. All of this will happen in the next 12 to 18 months. You are going to see if we have cost-reflective tariffs on power, you are going to see new investments in power supply. If power supply improves, GDP improves. If GDP improves, unemployment comes down. So everybody's going to be happier for it. So it is a question of one, new investment, two, government being transparent and accountable. If those two things happen simultaneously, I can assure you, just like our African neighbors, we are going to be living a better life at least 1.5 years to 2 years from today.
The coronavirus pandemic threatens to crumble the global economy, and Nigeria's is no exception. Perhaps it's time to urgently develop a plan and policy to assist millions of people who will lose income and a means of livelihood after COVID-19 is defeated.
Every individual should live within his means. Every individual should become more realistic about your expenditure. You must differentiate between what you need and what you want. We want a lot of things, but we should spend more on what we need as a country and as people.
Wale Fakile, Just Nigeria.